Today's radio show takes us back in history to April the 11th, 1861. The northern states and the southern states have been slowly on a collision course for some time now. The recent succession of South Carolina and the election to office of Abraham Lincoln have set the stage for the following events to unfold.
History with R&R proudly presents the build-up to the shot that started the Civil War. Today, we visit Fort Sumter.
Hello, this is Robert Knowles reporting from the headquarters of General Beauregard. Jeff Franklin is at Fort Sumter to report on what is going on from that side of the lines. We are currently in a standoff between the newly formed Confederate Army and the Army of the United States. I've just been informed that Colonel Chestnut and aides have been sent over to Fort Sumter. With that, I head over to Jeff Franklin so we can get a better idea of what's going on.
This is Jeff Franklin reporting from Fort Sumter. Colonel Chestnut has arrived. Upon arrival, he and his aides have officially demanded the surrender of this fort and all those inside. Major Anderson has adjourned to meet with his senior staff to discuss the possibility of surrender. Major Anderson has returned and rejected the call for surrender. Colonel Chestnut has boarded the boats and is now returning to give Major Anderson's answer to General Beauregard. Back to you, Robert Knowles.
This is Robert Knowles reporting. I've been told that General Beauregard has been given permission to take Fort Sumter by force if necessary, and has sent Colonel Chestnut back to the Fort Sumter to give his final ultimatum to Major Anderson. As I pray for the men in the fort, I send it back to Jeff Franklin.
This is Jeff Franklin again from Fort Sumter. Colonel Chestnut and Major Anderson are behind closed doors. I cannot talk to either at this time. However, I've been granted a meeting with Captain Doubleday of the 1st United States Artillery. And here he comes now. Good evening, Captain Doubleday.
Good evening, Mr. Franklin. I've been instructed by General Beauregard to answer questions you may have. But please, make this brief, because I still have preparations to make.
Of course, sir. Do you believe the fort is prepared if the Confederates do open fire?
Frankly, we are outgunned and outmanned. This fort was built to defend against a naval attack, not a land invasion. However, my men will do their job and do it honorably.
Do you know if Major Anderson has agreed to surrender the fort?
I know this much. With our current rations, supplies, and manpower, any prolonged attack on this fort or defense of this fort is futile. Our best hope is for resupply or our proposed withdrawal date on the 15th of April.
Thank you, Captain Doubleday. And now back to Robert Knowles.
Thank you, Jeff. I've been granted a brief interview with General Beauregard, and here he is now. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Now, I'll have to make this brief as I'm waiting to hear from Colonel Chestnut.
Has it really come down to this? Could we really see the Confederate Army open fire on the United States military?
I do not want it to come to that. However, my men are prepared, and we are ready to fire and take the fort by force, if that's what we must do. I've given Major Anderson every opportunity to resolve this peacefully. I can only pray that God has given him the good sense to know when he is outgunned and outmanned to do the right thing.
I understand that Major Anderson has made a proposal to withdraw by the 15th of April.
Well, this is true. However, he also stated that he would leave the fort as long as no further orders from his commander-in-chief or supplies are delivered to the fort before that date. I cannot accept those conditions. Therefore, I have instructed Colonel Chestnut to give my final word on the matter. And I hope you understand, Robert, I am not at liberty to discuss those orders at this time. Now, excuse me, good sir, I have some work to do.
Thank you, General Beauregard. Now back to Jeff Franklin.
Thank you, Robert. I'm joined by Colonel Chestnut. Good evening, Colonel.
Good evening. I do not have a lot of time because I have an important message to give Major Anderson.
Can you tell us what message that entails?
I have been honored with the privilege to inform Major Anderson that if he does not agree to completely surrender, then our guns will open fire. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a letter to deliver.
Colonel Chestnut has gone in and delivered his ultimatum, and I have it on good authority that Major Anderson has turned down this ultimatum. Major Anderson is now escorting Colonel Chestnut and his aides to the boat. Let's listen in on what Major Anderson is saying.
If we never meet in this world again, God grant that we meet in the next.
It has been exactly an hour since Colonel Chestnut has boarded his boat and headed back to the Confederate lines. The men are anxious and impatient for what is coming. Fort Johnson's guns.
We have lost contact with Jeff Franklin and are trying to establish some kind of communication with him. Until next time, this has been Robert Knowles with the History Broadcasting Network. Thank you, and good night.
This presentation of history with Anna has been written and produced by Robert Knowles, with the honorary writing credit to Richard Simpson. This was edited by Robert Knowles. The cast included Robert Knowles as himself, Jeff Franklin as himself, Dave Bob as Colonel James Chestnut, Chris Knight as General Beauregard, Loki as Major Robert Anderson, Mr. CCDV as Captain Abner Doubleday. Please join us next time as we explore another moment in history. Thank you, and good night.
Missed me by that much.